This is the DEFCON Warning System, bringing you weekly updates on the world's strategic situation. Alert status for 1300 hours UTC, Monday, the 6th of October 2025. Condition green, DEFCON 5. There are currently no imminent nuclear threats at this time. To be notified of our next update, press the subscribe button below and be sure to set notifications to be alerted to our next update or article. Over the past week, a number of developments have increased the risk environment, not to the point of nuclear confrontation, but certainly toward heightened escalation and greater instability. In this report, we will walk through 4 key flashpoints: US guarantees to defend Qatar, American support for Ukraine's long-range strike capabilities, a Russian drone incursion, and NATO response in Poland, and Moscow's continued rejection of peace proposals. We'll also survey related escalatory trends and risks to watch. On the 1st of October 2025, President Trump signed an executive order declaring that the United States will regard any armed attack on Qatar, its territory, sovereignty, or critical infrastructure as a direct threat to U.S. security. The order pledges that the U.S. shall take all lawful and appropriate measures, including diplomatic, economic, and, if necessary, military, to defend the interests of the United States and of the state of Qatar. Qatar welcomed the pledge, framing it as a deepening of its defense partnership with Washington. However, analysts note the legal and practical ambiguity of the guarantee, as it lacks Senate treaty ratification and could be reversed by future administrations. The strategic implications are: the U.S. is signaling that it may be willing to extend its security umbrella deeper into the Gulf region, potentially inserting itself into conflicts involving Israel, Iran, or Qatar's neighbors. The move may escalate tensions with Israel, depending on how binding the U.S. commitment is seen to be, especially after the Israeli strike on Doha that killed several people, including a Qatari security officer. For states like Iran, this may be perceived as a red line, altering the strategic calculations for proxy or missile operations in the region. The credibility of the guarantee will depend heavily on U.S. force posture, air and naval assets in the Gulf, readiness and willingness to act, thereby testing deterrence in a volatile theater. In sum, the U.S. move escalates rhetorical stakes in the Gulf. If challenged, this could draw Washington into a conflict zone more directly than in recent years. The U.S. defense guarantee to Qatar may intersect with ongoing tensions between Iran, Israel, and various militant actors. Should any conflict in the region flare, the U.S. may now be drawn in more directly, especially under the new guarantee. The Gulf flashpoint could intersect with the European theater through escalation, arms flows, or regional alignment. Also on the 1st of October, Reuters reported that the United States will provide Ukraine with intelligence support for long-range missile strikes targeting Russia's energy infrastructure deep within Russian territory. This assistance is likely to be read by Moscow as a major escalation. The U.S. is enabling offensive operations beyond Ukraine's borders, potentially striking critical Russian assets. From Russia's standpoint, a foreign power enabling attacks on its domestic energy infrastructure is tantamount to direct intervention. Expect that Moscow will frame this as crossing a new red line and seek to retaliate or signal deterrence more aggressively. At the same time, Ukraine believes targeting energy infrastructure will degrade Russia's ability to sustain its war effort, especially heading into winter. However, those strikes risk significant blowback, civilian casualties, energy blackouts in Russian border regions, and internal pressure to retaliate. Western policymakers may also worry about escalation spirals. Moscow might interpret this as full-blown intervention and respond more broadly, possibly targeting Western assets or supply lines. In short, this is a strategic gamble by the US and Ukraine. It ups the ante significantly. The risk is that Russia may respond not only in Ukraine, but with countermeasures abroad, in the Arctic, the Black Sea, or hybrid warfare domains. On the 9th and the 10th of September, Russian drones entered Polish airspace. Up to 19 to 23 unmanned aerial vehicles were detected. Polish and Allied forces scrambled interceptors. Up to 4 drones were shot down. The Netherlands' F-35s are reported to have downed the majority, with Poland also participating. The airspace over Warsaw, Modlin, Rzeszów, and Lublin airports was temporarily closed. In response, Poland invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, consultations among allies to address an existential threat to any member. NATO then launched Operation Eastern Sentry on the 12th of September to reinforce the eastern flank with air, naval, and ground assets. Under Eastern Sentry, coalition aircraft, F-16s, F-35s, Rafales, Eurofighters, and surface assets stand ready to intercept future incursions. Though some reports mention an incursion of Russian military vehicles into NATO territory, there are no confirmed credible reports of heavy armored vehicle penetrations in the past week. The drone breach remains the primary recent case of an overt act inside NATO's air domain. The Poland incident marks a critical escalation. For the first time in this war, a NATO member has engaged and shot down Russian assets in its airspace. It tests NATO's credibility. Will allies escalate their posture in defense of each other? Russia may see it as a test of resolve and probe for weaker members. Future incursions, via drones, missiles, or electronic warfare, may be designed to evade detection or provoke limited responses short of open war. NATO's bolstered posture may deter further airspace violations, but it raises the risk of miscalculation, especially in crowded airspaces near conflict zones. Additionally, in recent days, Russian leadership has reiterated that it rejects major peace proposals. Moscow continues to frame its aggression in Ukraine as existential, thus refusing compromise. The lack of credible consequences from the West reinforces the Kremlin's belief that it may escalate further without facing decisive pushback. Russian voices, such as Dmitry Medvedev, have also used drone and disruption incidents to stoke fear in Europe, presenting them as cautionary reminders of war's reality. Medvedev dismissed suggestions of Russian involvement in recent drone disruptions, but embraced the psychological effect. This rhetorical posture suggests that Moscow is comfortable with indirect escalation, hybrid warfare, and leveraging plausible deniability to test its adversaries' thresholds. The cumulative message: Russia perceives it can escalate incrementally with limited risk of existential retaliation. Until and unless the West imposes costs that Moscow deems unacceptable, sanctions, forceful interdiction, or strategic strikes, the Kremlin will likely push further. Ukraine has accused China of supplying satellite data and reconnaissance support to Russia to target Ukrainian sites. This raises the risk of a broader Sino-Russian alignment in intelligence and targeting, and potentially drags China more overtly into the conflict narrative. Western responses, e.g. sanctions or export controls, may escalate tensions with Beijing. The DEFCON Warning System is a private intelligence organization which has monitored and assessed nuclear threats by national entities since 1984. It is not affiliated with any government agency and does not represent the alert status of any military branch. The public should make their own evaluations and not rely on the DEFCON Warning System for any strategic planning. At all times, citizens are urged to learn what steps to take in the event of a nuclear attack. If this had been an actual attack, the DEFCON Warning System will give radiation readings for areas that are reported to it. Your readings will vary. Official news sources will have radiation readings for your area. For immediate updates, visit www.defconwarningsystem.com. Breaking news and important information can be found on the DEFCON Warning System Community Forum and on the DEFCON Twitter feed DEFCON WS Alerts. You may also subscribe to the DEFCON Warning System mailing list. Note that Twitter updates may be subject to delays. The next scheduled update is 13:30 hours, the 13th of October 2025. Additional updates will be made as the situation warrants, with more frequent updates at higher alert levels. This concludes this report of the DEFCON Warning System.